Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Ecology and Environment series by Law Excellence. In this video, we'll understand the different pollutants that were in use for the last 1 year. The first pollutant we are going to talk about is methane. The molecular formula of methane is CH4. So, the recent studies from the Global Carbon Project GCP showed that the methane levels are rising very rapidly in our atmosphere. So, what are the sources for this methane? So, mostly the methane is emitted through the anthropogenic sources like the livestock industry, cultivation of rice, landfills and wastewater management, fossil fuel production, biomass burning, clathrates also, and many other reasons. But these are the important ones. See, clathrates are the methane crystals that are formed in the cold, oxygen poor undersea sediments. Now, if you look at some of the important points from the exam perspective, though the methane composition is less than carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, it is a very effective greenhouse gas. It is believed that it is 28 times more effective than CO2 in our atmosphere. So, we should control the methane emissions. Also, the tropospheric ozone, which is considered to be very harmful, is formed because of the methane. See, the ozone in stratosphere is very useful to us, but it is not the case with the tropospheric ozone which is at the ground level. When this tropospheric ozone is inhaled, our lung tissues can also be damaged. See, the tropospheric ozone also impacts the crop productivity of the farms by reducing their capacity to photosynthesize, which is the primary source of energy for the plants. See, the methane emissions can be reduced by many ways by reducing the leakages while extracting the fossil fuels, also improving the livestock and agricultural management with better use of technology and better management techniques, and also proper treatment of waste, etc. The next one we are going to talk about are the agricultural emissions, which includes the pollutants such as black carbon, particulate matter, as well as the greenhouse gases. The Union government has launched a project called as the Green AG project, which was to reduce the agricultural emissions. See, it was very important to reduce these emissions because in India, agriculture and livestock together accounts for 18% of the gross emissions after the industries and energy sector. So, what are the sources for these agricultural emissions? There are many sources like the synthetic fertilizers, rice cultivation, manure management, crop residues, enteric fermentation, and use of inefficient water pumps. See, enteric fermentation is a natural part of the digestive process in ruminant animals such as cattle, sheep, goats, and buffalo. The microbes in the digestive tract or the rumen decompose and ferment their food, producing methane as a byproduct. And it is very challenging to reduce the agricultural emissions because of the high population of India and also the increasing demand for the food grain production. So, not using the proper technology in agriculture, also the poor knowledge of the farmers in this respect, and also the government policies which provides subsidies for the fertilizers encourages the farmers to use more fertilizers and account for more number of emissions. So, what are the steps we can take to reduce these emissions? We can go for adoption of zero tillage of agriculture. Also, we need to properly manage the water in the rice fields. Also, strengthening the research and development in the agricultural sector because there's a lot of scope for improvement. Also, the subsidies should be reduced by the government so they discourage the farmers from using the fertilizers and pesticides more than they need. And also, we need to promote the biogas production and also create awareness among the farmers. So, if we talk about the Green AG project in brief, it aims to bring at least 1,04,070 million hectares of farms under sustainable land and water management. See, the project will be implemented in the states of Mizoram, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Uttarakhand. It is being funded by the Global Environmental Facility, which was established on the eve of Rio Summit in the year 1992, and the World Bank serves as the GEF trustee administering the fund. And the Department of Agriculture, Cooperation and Farmers Welfare is the national executing agency of this project. Some of the other key players in this project are the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO and the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The next one we are going to talk about is mercury. See, mercury is naturally found everywhere in air, water, as well as the soil also. If you look at the primary sources of mercury into the atmosphere, it can be mining, burning of coal, fishing, burning of the biomass, cement products, oil refining, etc. So, mercury is very harmful to our nervous system, digestive system, and also immune system, and it affects largely our lungs, kidneys, our skin, also our eyes. So the people who are primarily exposed to the methyl mercury, which is an organic compound, when they eat fish or shellfish, are more vulnerable to Minamata disease. Also, there is a compound called ethyl mercury, which is very different from methyl mercury. Ethyl mercury is used as a preservative in some vaccines and does not pose any health risk. See, the Minamata Convention on the Mercury is a global treaty which is formed to protect human health and also the environment from the adverse effects of mercury and its various compounds. So, the next one we're going to talk about is e-waste. See, e-waste refers to the all items of electrical and electronic equipment and its parts which have been discarded by its owner as waste without the intent of reuse. So it was in news because the Global E-Waste Monitor 2020 report was released, and as we talked just now, the source of this waste is all the electrical as well as the electronic appliances as well as their parts which have been discarded. So why is it harmful? It is harmful because of the many toxic substances which are present in it. Also, the main problem with the e-waste is it cannot be recycled easily, and the scope to recycle it is also very less. And there is no proper awareness among the people about it. And these toxic substances in the e-waste are released into the environment and affects the humans, animals, and also contributes to the global warming. Also, one more problem is that a lot of e-waste is being dumped into the developing countries by the developed countries. So, what are the steps which we can take to reduce the e-waste? First, we can proceed with formal collection of e-waste. Means the collection should be properly done by the organizations. Also, we need to do the recycling properly and create even awareness about the recycling, and also better data collection should be done about the e-waste. Also, there is need for the governments around the world to develop proper e-waste policies as well as laws to handle the waste. The next one we are going to talk about are the marine plastic pollutants. It was in news because a report which was named Breaking the Plastic Wave showed that the annual flow of plastic, means the flow of plastic every year, could be tripled by the year 2049 if we don't take any necessary action to control it. Now, what are the sources for these marine plastic pollutants? The first and the foremost and the biggest source is the industrial activities, and also the construction and the illegal dumping, sewer overflows, fishing industry, aquaculture, storm runoff, And also the people who go to the beaches and all, they just throw that waste over there, etc. So all these are the sources for the marine plastic pollutants. Now, how does it impact the ocean ecosystem or the environment? It damages the aesthetic value of the tourist attractions such as the coastal areas and the beaches. Also, the marine environment and the marine animals gets affected. And if you note that this plastic enters the ecosystem or the food chain of the marine organisms, and this is consumed by humans also, thus affecting us. So what we can do is we can limit the use of plastic. This is the first and foremost step. And better waste collection methods should be used for collecting the marine waste or the plastic waste. And also better management of this waste should be done by properly recycling the waste. Also the government should make the necessary efforts, and also the researchers and the industries should find the appropriate methods for the reusage of plastic and also using plastic and for its disposal. The next pollutant we are going to talk about is lead, which leads to lead poisoning. It is in news because around one third of the global children population are being affected by this lead poisoning, according to a report launched by the UNICEF and Pure Earth. Now, if you look at the sources of this lead, it is primarily from the lead acid batteries and inhalation of lead from various industries, and also the lead gets mixed with water from the leaded pipes, and there are many other sources. And this lead is a cumulative toxicant which affects different body parts. The children of less age, like the young children, are more susceptible and vulnerable to these toxic effects, which can result in their decreased intelligence. Also, the adults who are exposed to lead are at a higher risk of developing a high BP and kidney damage. See, the lead can even affect the pregnant woman, and it can cause problems in them like the premature birth, underweight baby, and complications in the pregnancy, etc. The next pollutant we are going to talk about is sulfur dioxide. According to a analysis by Greenpeace India and the CREA, which stands for Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air, said that the SO2 emissions in India declined in 2019 compared to the 2018. If you look at the sources of this SO2, these are mainly the burning of fossil fuels, and it is emitted from power plants, and also the metal processing and smelting facilities, and also the emissions from the vehicles are the major sources of this SO2. If you look at the impacts of the SO2 on environment, it can create secondary pollutants, which means once they are released into air like sulfate aerosols, particulate matter, etc. It increases the risk of heart stroke and heart diseases, and also it can cause lung cancer and it can lead to premature death. See, sulfur dioxide also is the reason to formation of acid rain, which affects the plants and animals by affecting the tissues which are directly exposed to the acid rain. So to reduce the SO2 emissions, the renewable energy capacity has been expanded in the country, and the dependency on coal has been gradually decreased. Also, the government had decided to shut down many non-compliant thermal industries to control the SO2 emissions into the atmosphere. The next pollutant we're going to talk about are the indoor air pollutants, which includes the airborne particles, indoor formaldehyde, household gases, and carbon dioxide. It was in news because, as per the report in the Lancet journal, the deaths caused by the indoor air pollution reduced by 64% in India. Now, if you look at the sources of this indoor air pollutants, it includes the traditional biomass burning and the cook stoves. See, the incomplete combustion of the biomass produces a range of toxic gases, including the particulate matter, methane, carbon monoxide, and volatile organic compounds. So how does this affect the environment? See, the indoor air pollution is the depletion of indoor air quality by harmful chemicals and other materials. The indoor air quality is affected by many factors, including the type and running conditions of the indoor pollution sources, ventilation conditions, as well as the indoor activities. See, the indoor environment also affects the outdoor air quality as well as the pollution. That's why it becomes crucial. So, how can this pollution be handled? First and foremost step is that the central and state government should allocate sufficient funds in the long term or the long run to prevent the adverse impacts of this indoor air pollution on the health of the people. Also, we should use the solar cookers instead of the traditional gas stoves or the traditional stoves, and also increase the public awareness about how the clean fuel should be created and be used to prevent the pollution. The next pollutant is we are going to talk about is ammonia. Molecular formula is NH3. It was in news because recently there was a gas leakage at the Prayagraj of UP at the Indian Farmers Fertilizer Cooperative Limited, IFFCL. So the main sources of ammonia includes agriculture, also including the animal husbandry and ammonia fertilizers which are used for the crops, industrial processes, forest fires, also the animal and human waste. So now if you look at the impacts of this ammonia on environment, excess of ammonia, which means the ammonia in the greater quantities in the environment, contributes to the greenhouse gas emissions or the greenhouse effect, which ultimately results to global warming and climate change. It also leads to the water and air pollution because in gaseous forms it reacts with other oxides and pollutants in the atmosphere to form particulate matter and ammonium salts. Whereas in water, it can leach into the streams and rivers where it can become toxic to the aquatic animals over there. Also, the excess nitrogen because of this ammonia can cause eutrophication of lakes and also acidification. See, the ammonia also interacts with the moisture present in the skin, eyes, and the oral activity, respiratory tract to form the ammonium hydroxide, which leads to the cellular destruction. Also, the gaseous ammonia reacts with other pollutants in air to form particles of ammonium salts, which directly affects the human breathing. So, what we can do to check this ammonia pollution? Proper laws and guidelines should be implemented, and the conservation laws should be strict against dumping harmful waste, mainly the agricultural waste and fertilizers. Better technology needs to be used in dumping this waste, and also animal dietary management should be done properly. So the next pollutant we're going to talk about is heavy metals. It was in news because the heavy metal water pollution in the Ganga river decreased significantly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, if you look at the sources for this heavy metal water pollution, there are many anthropogenic sources like the mining, industrial coolants, leather tanning, e-waste, lead acid batteries, smelting operations, thermal power plants, and there are also many natural sources like the volcanic activity, metal evaporation from soil and water, soil erosion, geological weathering, etc. So the heavy metal refers to any metallic chemical element or any metal that has a relatively high density and is also poisonous at lower concentrations also. So examples of these heavy metals are mercury, cadmium, arsenic, etc. See, about two-thirds of the water quality stations on all major rivers have presence of one or more heavy metals and beyond the limits specified by the Bureau of Indian Standards. So some of the common heavy metals which are polluting the environment are lead, cadmium, nickel, chromium and copper in the non-monsoon periods, and iron, lead, chromium and copper are common in this monsoon periods. Okay, so now let us talk about some of the most common pollutants in the atmosphere. The first one we're going to talk in this context is of carbon monoxide. And the carbon monoxide is formed because of the incomplete combustion of the automobile engines or the IC engines, also from the volcanoes, forest fires, etc. See, basically, carbon monoxide forms wherever there is insufficient oxygen to form the carbon dioxide. So, this gas is highly toxic, as we all know, and it is a greenhouse gas, though not a direct one, but it indirectly promotes the greenhouse effect. So, if we look at some of the important effects or the impacts it has on us, it leads to carbon monoxide poisoning, and it is very toxic to the animals whichever has hemoglobin in its blood. If they are exposed to the more concentration of carbon dioxide, where the concentration is more than 35 ppm. And how is it harmful? It's harmful because it leads to the formation of carboxyhemoglobin, which reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood and thus affecting the human health. Also, it plays an important role in the formation of tropospheric ozone and can elevate the concentrations of methane, which is a strong greenhouse gas as we discussed just now. Also, we discussed earlier that the tropospheric ozone is not at all good for human health. The next one we are going to talk about is carbon dioxide, and it is mainly formed because of the decomposition of various substances. Also, it is released from the oceans and the respiration of organisms in the oceans, and also deforestation. Also, the burning of fossil fuels leads to the formation of carbon dioxide. Basically, it is heavier than air and it is a greenhouse gas which directly promotes the greenhouse gas and increases the temperature of the earth. See, carbon dioxide is an asphyxiant gas, which means it can cause unconsciousness and also death by suffocation because it basically displaces the oxygen, and that's how the person gets suffocated because of not having oxygen. It becomes even more harmful if increased concentration of the carbon dioxide is inhaled by the person, and basically it leads to dizziness, headache, etc. See, the carbon dioxide is also responsible for the carbonic rain in the highly polluted areas. Also, burning of the carbon based fuels from the time of the Industrial Revolution has led to the global warming and the increase of temperature till now. The next one we're going to talk about are the chlorofluorocarbons, which are used in our daily refrigerators, air conditioners, aerosols, etc. See, these are highly harmful to the environment and are very destructive in nature to the ozone layer, which protects us from the harmful radiation of the sun. Since the late 1970s, the use of chlorofluorocarbons has been greatly restricted or even reduced due to their destructive effects on the ozone layer. The Montreal Protocol on Substances that deplete the ozone layer, it is an international treaty designed to protect the ozone layer by phasing out the production of numerous substances including the chlorofluorocarbons which are responsible for ozone depletion. The next one we're going to talk about is the ground level ozone. See, naturally the ozone occurs in the stratosphere and absorbs the radiation from the sun. However, at the ground level, this ozone becomes really harmful and it is a pollutant which acts as a greenhouse gas and also with many toxic effects. So, vehicles and industries are the major sources of this ground level ozone. And note that the carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide plays a direct role in the formation of this ground level ozone. As we discussed just now, it is useful in the stratosphere, but it is very harmful at the ground level. It has many toxic effects like it causes itching and watering in the eyes, and it also acts as a greenhouse gas as we discussed just now. The next one we are going to talk about are the nitrogen oxides. See, these nitrogen oxides are emitted from the combustion of internal combustion engines, burning of coal at the power plants, and also from the natural reasons like the lightning. So, some of the important points you need to note down are various oxides of the nitrogen are called the nitrogen oxides and they are represented by NOx. See, these oxides of nitrogen increases the asthmatic conditions of the patients and also develops other respiratory issues in the human beings. Also, these oxides of nitrogen plays a very important role in the formation of smog. It causes acid rain through the formation of nitric acid and it also responsible for the greenhouse effect. So when the nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds react in the presence of sunlight, they also lead to the formation of photochemical smog. The next one we're going to talk about are the volatile organic compounds which are present in the paints, wood preservatives, furniture polish, aerosol sprays, disinfectants, and also the fuels which are to be stored and also the automotive products. They are nothing but basically a group of carbon based chemicals that can be easily evaporated at the room temperature. They are harmful to us because they can cause irritation in the eyes, also the irritation in the skin, nose and throat. If the person is exposed to these in a long run or a long term, it can cause damage to their liver and also some other vital body parts. The next one we're going to talk about is benzene, which is found in many petrochemicals and also it is used in many fuels as an additive. It is very harmful to us because it increases the risk of cancer if a person is exposed to it, and also it is one of the major reasons for the bone marrow failure in human beings. The next pollutant we are going to talk about is ethylene, and one of the major source of the ethylene is the burning of fossil fuels in the motor vehicle exhaust. And also this ethylene is used in many plastic industries as well as the chemical industries in the production of polyethylene and other components. Now, some of the important points you need to note down are excess exposure to this ethylene compound can cause severe headaches and also lead to dizziness. Ethylene oxide is a carcinogen, which means it is capable of causing cancer to the person. Also, the ethylene provides a major contribution to adverse environmental impacts such as greenhouse gas emissions, acidification, also ecotoxicity, which means it is harmful to both air as well as water. See, ethylene is also an important natural plant hormone and which is used in agriculture to force the ripening of fruits. The next one we're going to talk about is fly ash, which is majorly from the thermal power plants which use the coal. See, fly ash is nothing but the particles of oxides and other heavy metals. Majority of them are aluminum silicates, silicon dioxides and calcium oxides. The deposition of fly ash is very harmful to agricultural fields as it can cause heavy metal contamination of crops and vegetables. The Ministry of Environment and Forests now made it mandatory to use the fly ash based products in all construction based projects, road embankment works, and low lying landfilling works that are within 100-kilometer radius of thermal stations and mine filling activities within the 50-kilometer radius of the thermal stations. This move was taken because this can help us reduce the emissions of fly ash into the environment, and like we are using them for our need. The next one we're going to talk about are nanoparticles, which are the particles having diameters less than 100 nanometers. 1 nanometer equals to 10 power minus 9 meters. So the major sources of these nanoparticles are the combustion products, forest fires, volcanic ash, weathering of metal containing rocks, and also manufacturing of the nano products, etc. See, they are very harmful because they are responsible for the formation of dust clouds, ozone depletion, environmental hydroxyl radical concentration, also the stratospheric temperature changes. Even they can cause the nanoparticle poisoning. See, the naturally occurring nanoparticles are quite heterogeneous in size, which means they are varying in size and can be transported over thousands of kilometers, and which makes them suspended in the air for several days. The man made nanoparticles are purposely or unknowingly released into the air through industrial as well as mechanical processes. The next one we're going to talk about are nanoparticles, which are the particles having diameters less than 100 nanometers. 1 nanometer equals to 10 power minus 9 meters. So the major sources of these nanoparticles are the combustion products, forest fires, volcanic ash, weathering of metal containing rocks, and also manufacturing of the nano products, etc. See, they are very harmful because they are responsible for the formation of dust clouds, ozone depletion, environmental hydroxyl radical concentration, also the stratospheric temperature changes. Even they can cause the nanoparticle poisoning. See, the naturally occurring nanoparticles are quite heterogeneous in size, which means they are varying in size and can be transported over thousands of kilometers, and which makes them suspended in the air for several days. The man made nanoparticles are purposely or unknowingly released into the air through industrial as well as mechanical processes. Thank you and all the very best.